Just wanted to. Oh, you good? Okay. Hi. So thanks everybody so much for coming. I just wanted to set the stage real quick to just share who's up next. So we're going to start the day off with a land acknowledgement with Jesso, and then Bruce will be here with LA Waterkeeper just to let us know why we're here. And then we're going to pass the mic over to Maywood with Sacred Places Institute and the Tonga Nation. And then from there, we will hear from Laura with East Yards. And she's also going to be joined with some members of the community. She'll speak in Spanish to deliver that message for different media. Then we'll have Folar, Friends of the LA River, and finally we'll wrap it up with Bruce from LA Waterkeeper again to just close us out. So after that, we'll have some availability for one-on-ones and direct all members of the media to just hold for that. And yeah, thanks so much for coming. I'm going to pass it off to Jesso.
My name is Jessa Calderon, Jessacalderon. Me'iha Wenihinkam Netwanyane, Jessa Calderon. We are standing here before the Los Angeles River in Los Angeles County, and we are acknowledging that this river has been used for thousands upon thousands of years by the Tongva Nation, and we are currently today standing here before you on Tongva lands. Aweshkoneha.
Thank you, Jessa. Thank you all for coming out. I'm just going to give a very quick overview of why we're here today. Hopefully you all know. My name is Bruce Risnick. I am the Executive Director of Los Angeles Waterkeeper. It's Reznik. We are here because today LA County is poised to adopt a master plan for the LA River. And it's a plan that isn't a plan for a river that they just are not even recognizing as a river. We are here because a lot of our groups and a lot of our community members and partners try to participate in good faith over years to try to get the county to take seriously the idea of restoring the LA River back to health. We felt our voices have been ignored over that time, over those few years. A lot of the groups that actually, including LA Waterkeeper, that were part of the steering committee have actually demanded that our names be pulled off the master plan that is being voted on today. And frankly, because we feel we have not been listened to, we didn't feel any need to show up to the county board. We would rather be here today with the community at the LA River, expressing our concerns about the LA River master plan that's poised to be adopted, and what we see as the future for an LA River that is both healthier and more resilient for the river itself and for the communities adjacent. And so with that, I'm going to hand over to our first official speaker, Anne-Marie Mendoza, representing the Tonga tribe. Thank you.
Anne-Marie Mendoza. Hello, my friends and relatives. My name is Anne-Marie Mendoza. I am Tonga. I am a water person. And this is my son, Michael, and our community member, Jesso. As a Tonga community member and former Indigenous Water Program Director for Sacred Places Institute, I am here to speak about my 2-year experience as an Indigenous water planner, navigating the LA River Master Plan, and trying to convince county officials and stakeholders alike that Native tribes and Indigenous groups have historical and ecological knowledge that is essential to addressing the social and environmental justice issues that the LA River Master Plan supposedly wanted to address. Thus far, the county boasts that the planning effort has involved dozens of community meetings, thousands of community members, and a diverse steering committee to help ensure the plan reflects the diverse interests along the river. Yet a diversity of Indigenous voices has been excluded throughout the planning process, resulting in few visible fingerprints in the plan draft and the language. For the Tonga community, the LA River Master Plan offers great insight into the current colonial moment. And in this moment, our participation is much like our beloved relative, the Los Angeles River. It is channelized, it is controlled, and it is manipulated to concede to the will of a planning process that is ultimately intimidated by the power of Indigenous people. Our power stems from our values and our will to prioritize the health and well-being of water for itself. Our way of viewing water as a living entity is a threat to the resource and development-driven logic that ultimately defines the LA River Master Plan. Tribal participation over 2 years can be summed up in one tokenizing and extractive event held at the Autry Museum, June 1st, 2019. And I don't use those words tokenizing and extractive lightly. No other community groups besides us local Native people had their one community engagement be as a performance panel set up for the rest of everyone else to enjoy. Other community groups, like the ones you will hear from today, actually had community meetings, listening sessions, where planning consultants organized dialogue, report backs on the state of the plan. We did not get that same respect. And I know this because our allies invited me to their meetings, so our meetings were not the same. The Autry did produce one good thing though. After the event, we went into a room as a community and we decided that we wanted representation. We exercised our sovereignty as a community and we voted on to have a person represent our interest in the LA River Master Plan. I was chosen for that responsibility, and I could honestly say that was one of the most exciting days in my adult life, because not only were my elders and my community members entrusting me with that responsibility, I felt that we had an actual chance to have some of our values trickle into this plan. We wrote a letter to the county, and in the spirit of reciprocity, because we had just shared our knowledge, we thought the county owed us some representation. Well, we did receive a response back from the Director of Public Works on October 7th, and I'll read a little portion of you of what that letter said. Quote, with the plan development being more than 2/3 complete, the LA River Master Plan Steering Committee has one remaining meeting left in December this year. At this time, the county does not intend to appoint any additional members to the LA River Master Plan Steering Committee, but foresees many future opportunities for all Native American communities to participate in discussions on planning and implementation of the efforts to achieve specific goals related to Indigenous peoples, art, history, and culture, end quote. This statement is problematic in so many ways, but I'll point out the two that really are glaring at me. The first is that Native communities were an afterthought and reached out to two-thirds of the way of the actual plan. We should have been involved in the very beginning steps of this plan. We are Native nations that are promised and guaranteed government-to-government consultation, and that did not happen at one time. The second being is that, again, our input is channelized to only being a part of the specific goal of art, history, and culture. Well, I'm here today to tell you that that is not good enough for us. That is not good enough for the river. We recognize our Paime Pahite, our Los Angeles River, as a living relative, and it thus should be respected and planned for accordingly. Our river is not just a resource for tourism and development, it is an ecosystem that we must protect and revitalize using Tongva traditional ecological knowledge. We are holders of this specific knowledge and history that has existed way before any of these institutions. And we should be the ones who guide the vision for the future of the river. We are the rightful decision makers, and we are not just good Indians to take a picture to feed the master plan propaganda machine. We are not just another box to check. I am today with expressing my gratitude to the other environmental orgs that are standing next to me, and I am proud that you are finally seeing the limitations of this planning process and standing up against it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes. This is East Yard Communities for Environmental Justice. My name is Laura Cortes, and I will be speaking based on conversations that we have had with community members across the LA River from our membership, Long Beach, through the east side, and includes all of Southeast LA. So my name is Laura again, member, organizer, co-executive director with East Yard Communities for Environmental Justice. And I am very happy to see community members here with us today. Even though it's a Tuesday, even though folks have to be at work, even though folks have many other priorities, we are still in a pandemic. have to prioritize standing up against a plan that has been disrespectful and performative to the community engagement process of our communities. With community engagement and what has already been stated, it has been left clear. We have been part of a steering committee that some of us have had to force our way into, or were not invited at all. And when we were invited into this community engagement process, if at all, it was with the understanding that we would shape and form innovative solutions for the LA River. We are very disappointed that that has not happened. We are very disappointed that the LA County Public Works Department continues to think in laying down pavement, continues to think in very basic, very old school terms, right? When we know that this is not an equitable process. We are fully aware and are present today to express the discontent with this, the fact that we need to focus on green spaces that are focused on practices led by Indigenous peoples who have been the caretakers of this land, and that we must learn from that we must practice that. The fact that when we're talking about the LA River, we are dismissing the communities along the LA River by not implementing community stability processes, which are necessary to ensure that our communities are not displaced and are not gentrified out of here. And so it is really, really important that the LA County Board of Supervisors understand that they do have power, that this process was not adequate, that they have the power to create structures that prioritize water, that prioritize land, that prioritize equitable community engagements with Indigenous people, with communities of color that are severely impacted, that have been generationally struggling because of institutional practices that they have created. And so with that, we want to make sure that we be very clear. We are not going anywhere. Our community here is here to stay. We hope that we can engage in a good way. We do not want this to be a contentious process, but we will continue to fight for this river who gives so much to us. And we will continue to fight for this land, these peoples, together in unity, as you can see through this coalition that has been created and through community members all across the region. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Costa, Taycosta, and I'm here representing Friends of the LA River. Our organization was part of the steering committee, so those were invited to be at the table to shape the future of this plan. And we are also asking the county to remove our names from the plan, mostly because it does not do anything for our community, climate resilience, and ecology the way that we hoped that we would, the way that we asked the county to do. Essentially, the county is proposing to spend massive amounts of taxpayer money putting concrete tunnels, channels to divert water from faraway places into the river, keep the river as a concrete pathway to wash the water away into the ocean. Now, I don't need to tell you, this is California and we have drought problems. So why would we spend billions, $20 billion taxpayer money to divert water into the ocean? There are much better solutions out there, solutions that are supported by FEMA, by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. You could capture the stormwater, recycle and reuse it. Our region needs that. Not to mention, there was no consideration for land, consideration for nature-based solutions to restore the ecosystems in the river. There are ways you can control flood, which is the county's main point with this plan, and still restore ecology. We could restore natural wetlands, natural floodplains, and yet all that they're providing us is more concrete, more of the same, which makes our local climate even worse. So we really feel that this plan is not at all what the community has asked for. It's not at all based in modern science. In fact, members of the steering committee are environmental scientists. Um, they are urban planners. Our input was not just an opinion, it was informed by the most accurate, effective, and less costly way of restoring our, our lungs. This river are the lungs of Los Angeles. We need this to keep our climate resilient. So even though Fuller is today removing our names from the plan officially, we are not going to give up on the river. We're going to fight for it, and we're going to fight to make the communities around the river uh, be able to enjoy this public space. Thank you very much.
Back up, Bruce Risnick, Executive Director of Los Angeles Waterkeeper. We were a member of the steering committee, although pulling our name off the plan as well. Our allies and community representatives have said everything, frankly, better than I can. I would just note a couple things. We are, first of all, I don't want to be here. You know, we try to always work collaboratively with our government agencies, with the county, and frankly, we've done that very effectively on things like the Safe Clean Water Program. We're here because we have not been listened to as a community, or we've been excluded from the process. We have tried for years to get a plan that is more representative of what the community wants, that focuses and prioritizes community and ecological health and resilience. This is a last resort for us. And the reason we feel so strongly about it is we are at a crossroads of the river. It always feels like that, but it feels like it more than ever with the threat, and not the threat, the reality of climate change and where we are at our point in history along the LA River. You know, as has been pointed out, the Indigenous peoples lived in harmony with this river for thousands of years. And it was only when we came and built too close to the river and had flooding and we channelized it, we created a scar across LA. Rivers connect communities. They're the lifeblood of communities, and we have created a concrete channel. And after all that we know today about what that does, the simple reality is when you look at a map of LA, we do not get to an equitable LA, we do not get to a resilient LA without restoring the LA River to health. And we need a plan that is going to take that into account, that is going to be led by the agencies that are going to take community input seriously, and not just, as has been said, checking off a box. We need a plan that is going to prioritize the community, health and resilience, and the health of the river. And we can do it. It's going to take a long time. It's a hard fight, but we're all in that fight. We're all willing to do it. That's why you see dozens of people out here still in the pandemic on a work day to talk about that. Unfortunately, this plan just falls short. And so I'm just going to read one quick quote from an article. I always have articles about the LA River. I won't do the whole thing, but pulling up the concrete of the LA River would feel like atoning for the sins of the city's past, a restoration of the place to its origins, of Angelinos to their senses. That's the kind of thinking that we need, not doubling down on the mistakes of the past, more concrete, burying the LA River for another century, and further disconnecting our Indigenous representatives, our Indigenous communities, and our communities along the LA River from what should be the lifeblood. Thank you very much for coming out. We can take any questions we want, or just go to one-on-one interviews.